Good morning. We are bringing you special live coverage this morning to honor the life and service of Cobb County Deputy Jonathan Koleski. Thanks for joining us. I'm Cheryl Preheim.
And I'm Aisha Howard. This morning is a somber one as our community pays their respects to the deputy. Last night, Governor Brian Kemp ordered all flags to fly at half-staff in honor of Deputy Koleski and Deputy Marshall Irvin Jr., who were both shot and killed September 8th while serving a warrant in Marietta. The sheriff's office said the deputies went up to a home, they rang the doorbell and no one answered. But then shots were fired upon the deputies when they returned to their patrol vehicle. There are now 2 suspects in custody.
This morning's services are scheduled for Deputy Koleski. He served the department for 15 years, starting with Cobb County's Sheriff's Office in 2007. He was 42, a U.S. Army veteran deploying on 3 tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He was a young husband and loved by so many. This morning, Liza Lucas is live along part of the route. Deputy Koleski will be taken to the church. Liza, the community has really rallied in support of the department, and we see that already as the procession has started.
That's right. You can see the first of that motorcade making its way, a very slow procession coming down Highway 41. This is the very start. We've just stopped traffic here at the intersection of Blue Springs Road so that this processional can really make its way. And one by one, we are watching deputies' cars go by from Cobb County Sheriff's Office. You see the blue lights flashing right here. Just a tremendous show of support coming from the Sheriff's Office as they honor and remember the life and legacy of Deputy Koleski. You can just see making its way down the hill right there. You can see in the far distance in our shot the flashing lights coming, bringing Deputy Koleski as they start heading towards the church, which is not too far from here. They're going to start the visitation at 9. That will continue until 11 a.m. You can see the hearse. We're going to take a moment as it passes. Again, Cheryl, you are watching the procession unfold here along Highway 41. The blue lights are still coming down following the hearse, which is carrying Deputy Koleski. They're making their way onto Blue Springs Road, where traffic is currently stopped. People just stopping here, taking a moment to remember the life and the legacy of this deputy. Now we're at the tail end of the procession here, but this is the start of what's going to be a very long day, an important day for the community that has really been hurting here in Cobb County, and really for all of us that are hurt by the loss of these 2 officers just doing their job, serving their community. And those are messages that we have heard throughout the course of the week. You can see those final cars, those final deputies making their way, escorting the hearse as they head towards the church off of Blue Springs Road. And that visitation again set to take place starting at 9 a.m. We're watching the end of the taillights right there. Sending it back to you guys.
Liza, it's such a poignant moment to see so many involved in that procession, law enforcement traveling from all over the state to be part of this moment. We know the support must mean so much to everybody who loves Deputy Koleski. Thanks, Liza.
And that visitation again scheduled to start at 9 this morning. They are heading to North Star Church there in Kennesaw. He will then be taken to Georgia National Cemetery in Canton. Let's get you with a live look this morning right now. We're watching that processional approach the church, and this is just such an emotional image. When we first started covering this very tragic story, we heard from Sheriff Owens there in Cobb County, who said this was so tragic and just devastating to them that it was really the show of support that was carrying them through. Because if you think about it, in these scenarios, the work must go on. They have to keep serving and protecting our community throughout their grief and throughout their heartbreak. So it was so important to see this show of support, not only from around the state, but all across the country. Now, we do understand that this procession, as it approaches the church, it might bring in a little bit of traffic troubles for you. So we have our Crash Clark, who was with us this morning to explain the roads and what's going to be blocked for this procession even after the services as they head to the cemetery. Good morning, Crash. We're going to keep watching here as the hearse approaches the church. Crash is going to give us more on the traffic situation coming up in a little bit, but that visitation is set to start at 9 as we see the hearse moving in.
You know, Deputy Koleski's sister had said that she's heartbroken, but at the same time, she said, I'm so proud of my brother. She said he is the pure definition of a hero in so many different ways, to his siblings, to his mother, to his country, to his wife, and certainly the state of Georgia. Again, he served Cobb County for 15 years with the Sheriff's Department, and you see the law enforcement officers standing there at the front door of the church as the hearse now arrives, and they will bring Deputy Koleski's body into the church. Visitation starting at 9. It will go until 11, and the funeral starting at noon. Aisha, it's always so impactful to see the way the law enforcement community and the greater community rallies in a moment like this, to be there, to be present in this moment for one another and for his sister, his wife, his mom, and everybody he meant so much to.
We're also talking about a hero. This is a veteran serving 3 tours. And when you talk about that community response, he leaves behind a wife. You know, when you think about that scenario and when all of this is over and life has to continue for her, the community has really responded in such a crucial way. That GoFundMe was posted on behalf of his family. His sister posted it, you know, on behalf of not their loved ones, you know, saying when her moment, the mom got that phone call hearing about this, and they were just thinking about his wife, Amy. I just checked before we came on this morning that GoFundMe has raised $9,500 with a goal of $25,000. This is a show of support, and we think about the funeral services and on the day of, but life has to go on for his family and for his wife. So the community has really shown up for those loved ones.
And it's an opportunity to stay present. As you said, after the services end and this day passes, life has to move forward for the department and for this family, and the community being aware of their pain and being there to support them through it is really meaningful. On a day like today where we see it in such a visual way, that's a way that it can continue on. You know, his mom shared a little bit about the last conversation she had with him. You know, she knew her son would go into potentially life-threatening situations every day. She said, the last conversation he told me, don't worry, Mom, I'm safe, you don't have to worry. And the call came, you know, hours later.
And as we go about our day, and we know the governor has ordered for those flags to be lowered, if you see that when you're driving around town, recognize why those flags are lowered. Just take a moment to think of these loved ones and his mom and his siblings and his wife, because this day and the days to come are just going to be so heavy for them.
If you're just joining us, we are looking at the church here now where Deputy Jonathan Koleski will be remembered. 42 years old, a husband, a son, a colleague of law enforcement, and a friend to so many, being remembered and honored today as law enforcement from all over the state and other parts of the country have come. The procession just ended, the hearse pulling into the church. And we do want to take a moment, of course, to also acknowledge 38-year-old Marshall Irvin, who was also killed as they served a warrant at a home in Marietta. His service will be tomorrow. Today is a day to honor and remember Deputy Koleski.
And also the Cobb County community really making sure that everyone has an opportunity to be involved and to pay their respect. You have the traffic court workers who delayed their process for today and tomorrow so that they will have the opportunity to come out and show their respect as well. And that's so important, because when you think about all of the operations that go into this, you never really stop the work, and they're just giving them that chance to grieve and to properly process this. I think the weight of this tragedy is especially heavy because you have a law enforcement officer, and we have these cases that are so tragic, unfortunately. And when we deliver this news, it's typically one. We have 2 deputies who were together serving this warrant when what Sheriff Owens described as an ambush, and just recounting those moments for them as they were giving that press conference the day after, just how fast you know, things unfolded there. You got to take time to just process this and let it be what it is, especially for law enforcement. We talk about the mental health aspects that they have to go through, but that does trickle down to the people they greeted every day as they walked in, the people who worked the traffic court because maybe they were on patrol. So many people impacted.
The hearse now approaching the front door of the church. This is North Star Church on Blue Springs Road. As we see a few people now walking toward the front door. I'll never forget Cobb County Sheriff Craig Owens that night just talking about it being a night of heartache and heartbreak, and that certainly just started that night, and today is a continuation of that. A lot of heavy hearts there as we see members of the Sheriff's Department walking towards the church. Again, services will be at noon. You see the hearse there right between the flags making a slow approach to the door, and there will be a ceremonial display as they walk Deputy Koleski's casket into the building for visitation. That's going to start in about 20 minutes and go through 11 o'clock. Heartache for two families, two wives, an entire department, and a community as two deputies killed in the line of duty. The first service this morning and another one tomorrow.
And for these services for Deputy Koleski, because of his service to our country, we do expect to not only see a strong law enforcement presence, but also incorporating the military presence and things that go into those funeral services, as well as we just see the strong presence here of these flags outlining the church. We have the pallbearers getting ready to unload the hearse, unload the casket to take it into the church to start this visitation for Deputy Jonathan Koleski. This has really been just a tough week for the community, and it seems like, you know, when it comes down to the funeral, a lot of those emotions just start to come back, and you're processing just the reality of what happened to these two young men, you know, very young men doing their jobs. And what I love about photos circulating of Deputy Koleski, we're going to just take a moment here to watch the hearse enter and the casket enter the church here.
You see the cross and the flags in the foreground, and think about the deputies and law enforcement brothers carrying that casket in, someone that they were close to, worked closely with, and put themselves in harm's way with throughout the course of an entire career, understanding the impact to the department, to the law enforcement community, and the greater community. Aisha, you talked about how young these two deputies were, 38 and 42 years old. Leaving behind families who are so proud to see the honorable work that they did, and feel deeply the loss because they put their lives on the line and their lives were taken.
One of the images I keep thinking about is Deputy Koleski was so proud of his job that on the night of his wedding, they took a photo in front of his sheriff's deputy vehicle, you know, with his wife planting a big kiss, and he's just smiling in front of his patrol car. And I think that's such a beautiful image there, just to show how proud he was, not only to serve his country, but to continue serving his community doing this work. Looking at the flag there, as it's lowered to have staff today, we will see that all across the state in honor of these two deputies.
The sheriff saying that these were men of character, outstanding men of character and integrity. We see lines and lines of other law enforcement now making their way into the building. This is North Star Church. There'll be a visitation from 9 to 11 and services after that. The community will have a chance to be part of a procession when the hearse leaves the church along Blue Springs Road, and we expect to see a tremendous show of support at that time as well. And we expect this church will be full of people who want to pay their final respects and to say thank you for many years of service, 15 years of service to Cobb County.
And because of his service and his sacrifice, not only with the Sheriff's Department and the military as well, that burial is going to take place at the Georgia National Cemetery in Canton, Georgia. It's going to be on Veterans Cemetery Road. So as you have that opportunity to line the street on Blue Springs Road there in Kennesaw, that's where that procession will lead to further cement the honor and the duty and the service of Deputy Jonathan Koleski.
His sister is in the church, his whole family represented. His sister said, quote, "This has left a deep scar on my family. There's a void that will never be fulfilled. He was stolen from us." But the family talking about how much the support has meant to them. If you would like to see the procession after it leaves the church, they'll be traveling along Highway 41, Busby Parkway, I-575. There'll be other roads this afternoon. Chastain Road and Busby Parkway will be the best location to watch the procession this afternoon if you personally would like to honor the life of Deputy Koleski.
And that's just something that people say, I didn't know him, and you just see all sorts of people, no connection, you never knew this person, but it's just saying for his family to be riding in those vehicles going past, what it would mean to them to look out of the window on such a tough day, to see strangers' faces, people they'll probably never see again, knowing that they made the sacrifice to come outside their homes and just to show them that support on what is going to for sure be a very, very heavy day.
We will pick up our special coverage of remembering Deputy Jonathan Koleski at noon and on middays on 11 Live broadcast. Thanks for joining us.